Emotions are running high this election season. Some families have been torn apart. There have been tense standoffs at political rallies. Voters have reported feeling anxious and stressful about the upcoming election. Karen Howard is a former congressional committee staffer and the author of Upset is Optional. Say goodbye to unnecessary suffering. Hey, Karen, thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Sure. And election anxiety, like I said, is very real. People on both the left and right have very strong opinions about the leading presidential candidates. First, explain your title, Upset is Optional, and what's your advice to voters who are losing sleep over the November election?
So Upset is Optional has 10 practices that are designed to eliminate unnecessary suffering. There's always going to be suffering in the world, of course, but oftentimes we can control how much we let that impact us and subsequently our health and our relationships with our family. So I think in this book, there are probably 4 practices that directly relate to the political environment we're living in, and they're creating a word wall, learning how to reframe the situation, designing a mood on a daily basis, and serving 7 generations.
Yeah, so tell us about that word wall. Let's break it down.
So there are a lot of words that are triggers for people in this election, and I think the easiest one to identify with is crazy. And every time we say someone is crazy, that really constitutes a whole image in our head and really resonates deeply in our body. So my recommendation is that we start to change the word in our head and take away the anxiety. So instead of crazy, or when you hear it, go, that's interesting. And as somebody who watches and listens to this all day long, I spend a lot of time going, that's interesting, or wow, without judgment. And it does shift, and it eliminates some of that anxiety.
You know, Karen, there have been families torn apart by politics, children caught in the middle. What's the best way to handle it to diffuse all of the tension?
I'm going to recommend that people start to reframe this conversation for the benefit of that, because you are exactly right. I mean, we are all living in a sense of fear, panic, anxiety around the future of our country for whatever reason, and on both sides of the political fence. Everybody has an opinion. But if we can change that into opportunity, like not waking up every day in fear, but looking at opportunity, and that way understanding that the voting mechanisms that we have in place, though not perfect, actually are the most important thing that we have at our disposal, you can begin to find opportunity. And that opportunity exists at every level of the political conversation and discourse. It's not just at the national levels. We've seen that. You've seen it in the New York primaries.
Absolutely, we certainly have here in New York. And, you know, some psychologists have suggested that it's important to set boundaries with people who share different opinions about the election. Explain why.
Well, with boundaries, then you are absolutely being able to be in control of your conversation, right? So if somebody is engaging you in a conversation that is upsetting, I recommend, first of all, you start the day by designing your mood. And remember it when you get into those conversations. So if I wake up and every day I hit the floor with peaceful in my heart and in my body, more importantly, then when I walk through the day and I run into a conversation where I'm going to get upset about this and be confronted, I take a deep breath, sit back, don't speak, and find that space in my body before I reply. So you're not always in a reactionary mode. And I think being able to practice that, this is a great time to practice, because you're going to have to do it off and on all day long, all through the week and through the month.
And through November, right? And some people say that, you know, when people have, say, inflammatory views about the upcoming election, to separate the people from their viewpoints so the relationship is not totally destroyed.
Very essential. I mean, we have an obligation to be in the conversation because, you know, we're here in one generation, but my view of being in this conversation is that it's 7 generations that we serve. So 3 generations got us to this place where we have the ability to vote, and we must vote at all levels because everything runs uphill when it comes to politics. And then 3 generations are relying on us to take care of their future. We may never know those generations. So it's our obligation to be present in this moment and stay calm, and really focus in on what's important to you and let other people have their views and be an observer in that conversation and not a reactionary force.
Karen Howard, author of Upset is Optional. Appreciate your time. When we come back, our final focus.